Revising your narrative. What is revising? It's a process of rereading your writing to make changes. When you revise, you make changes in content, organization, sentence structures, and word choice. What are the steps in revising? The first step is adding. What else does a reader need to know? The second step is replacing. Would more vivid details help bring your piece to life? Replace boring verbs with more vivid verbs and add more descriptive adjectives and details. The third step is removing. Sometimes one of your ideas doesn't work out. What extra details or unnecessary information should be removed from your writing to make the story flow better? And the last step is rearranging. Even when you've planned your piece, sections may need rearranging. Is your information in the most logical and most effective order? Sometimes we can remember these steps in revising by using the acronym R, ARRR, for adding, replacing, removing, and rearranging. To begin with, you can refer to your handout for these steps. The first thing that you need to do is rewrite your draft on notebook paper. Write on every other line. Write your title in the center of the top line of your paper. It does not need to be underlined. Capitalize important words in your title. Skip one line after the title and begin your first paragraph by indenting. Here's an example of a draft that has been written following those guidelines. In the top right-hand corner, you can put your name, date, and period. The title will be centered on the top line, all the important words capitalized. Then you will skip a line after the title. Finally, you will make sure you indent your paragraphs and make sure you keep to the margins within the red lines. The first step, add. Here are some things that you can do to add to your paper. You can add action words and details in place of some of the linking verbs, such as am, be, is, are, were, was, been, been. For example, instead of saying she was happy, you may say her smile covered her face and light shined from her eyes. That would be using a lot more detail and some vivid verbs rather than just boring verbs. Another example is we were at Six Flags. Instead of saying that, you may say something like, as we walked into the park, we saw roller coasters towering above us and happy people running around everywhere. The next thing you need to do to add is add different sentence structures by adding adverbs, for example, such as finally, carefully, happily. You may also add prepositional phrases to your sentences, such as after the movie, during the journey, upon entering the house. The next way you can revise your work is to replace things in your paper, such as overused words. A lot of times we use words like good, great, awesome, nice, bad, sad. Those are overused a lot. So instead, replace those words with other words that are more descriptive. You may also replace adverbs like very and really. Instead of using that, you can add more detailed description. For example, instead of saying she was very mad, you may instead try this. She was so mad that her voice wavered and her clenched fist shook. The next step in revising your paper is to remove. Make sure you're writing in first person using pronouns I, me, and my, or you may write your paper in third person and use pronouns such as he, she, it. You do not want to use any words like you or your because those are second person, unless you're using those in dialogue. If you're using those in dialogue, then that will be fine. Otherwise, you should use first or third person only. Circle and remove any forms of the verb to be. These are linking verbs. Make sure to remove at least half of these because at times we can overuse these verbs. Remove them, words that you repeat, such as like. If you use the word like a lot in your paper, you need to remove some of those words. Also, by using pronouns over and over and over, that becomes very repetitive. You need to remove some of those pronouns and use the actual noun that those pronouns are referring to. Finally, you need to rearrange. Change the order of some words or sentences as needed to make sure your sentences make more sense and make them more interesting. You may rearrange paragraphs to make your paper flow better. You may also rearrange the sequence of events so that the order of events make more sense. Finally, use transition words like first, next, then, after, before, and others. These are ways that you can revise your paper. When you're finished revising your paper, make sure you check your paper to make sure that you have a setting in your paper, that you have characters, that you have a consistent point of view, a beginning, middle, and an end, a satisfying conclusion, conclusions such as the end and I hope you enjoy reading my paper and that's all. Those are not very good conclusions and will not be acceptable for your narrative writing. You must give a conclusion, a good conclusion. Also use precise words and phrases. Use descriptive adjectives and details and vivid verbs.